Here's a little secret if you don't like podcast editing. The more you prep now, the less you'll have to edit later. Hi, I'm Mark Steadman and I run the podcast hosting company Podiant, and I want to bring you actionable advice that you can apply to your podcast today. Now, we're going to talk about planning your first episode and how it applies to subsequent episodes. So, the more you plan now, as I've said in the intro, the less that you'll most likely have to edit later, which is ideal, really. Even the most off-the-cuff sounding podcasts tend to be really well planned in advance. The more you write beforehand, the better your show notes will be as well, and we will cover writing show notes and how you present those to your listeners in a later video. So let's say you're making a comedy show and you're riffing about the latest headlines. Well, start with a Google Doc, add links to the stories that you want to talk about, and invite your guests or your co-hosts to read the doc, and then perhaps add links to the document as well. Arrange your document into segments. Even if you don't call out the segments on air, it helps you know exactly where you are in the episode, and you can even add durations and timestamps if that's helpful. Now, with your guests, your co-hosts list their names in the order that you're going to introduce them, especially if you want them to introduce themselves. That'll just help make everything really smooth. Now, when it comes to your guests, don't assume you know how to pronounce their name. I've covered this in another video before. Ask them how to pronounce their name. Ask them to say their name in a recording as well. And consider asking for their gender pronoun. You would rather be a little bit embarrassed for asking than for them to be embarrassed for you to misgender them on the call. If your show's less about banter and that kind of thing, then bullet points are your friend. Link to as many sources, citing information as you can, because that, again, will help. It'll add context to the call, but it will also add information for your show notes for your listeners as well. If you're using calls to action, or you've got social media handles, don't assume that you're going to remember all of them at the end of the episode when you come to do your wrap-up. Write them all down in the order that you're going to call them out. It's up to you whether you share your show notes with your guest. It may depend on how you want to work with your guest, and it may depend on them as well. Some people are quite happy going in almost blind, whereas some people like to have a little bit more prep time. If you're planning a bunch of episodes, then maybe set up a Trello board. If you're familiar with Trello, it's a technique where you can move cards around a virtual board of columns. So you can take a card and you can have columns like idea, planned, recorded, edited, uploaded, and published. And you just move each episode's card along that process so you can keep track of where you are in that process. And the same thing can work for guest-based podcasts as well. Just keep adding new ideas to that board, and then you can really easily keep track of lots of different balls in the air, so you're never sort of worrying about where exactly am I with this, with this process. With guests, as I was saying, you could do things like potential guest, asked, interested, scheduled, recorded, edited, and so on. And as each guest tells you they're interested, you just move them along the process. And so if you've got a backlog of episodes that you're working through, you've now got this information at your fingertips. Now consider how you might market each episode. If you've got online communities pertinent to your guest or the subjects that you're talking about, list those in your document as well so that you can come back to them later. Now, there is such a thing as over-planning, of course. You can risk perhaps prepping too much and then the episode doesn't quite work or the guest doesn't show up or whatever. So it is, like with so many things, it's a balance, but it's also something that you will come to with practice and with experience. As I've said before, the more that you do now, the more time you'll save later. And the more that you can automate or rinse and repeat, then the more easy you will find the process. And the easier the process, the more sustainable it is, and the longer you will continue podcasting. And that is our goal. And speaking of our goal to continue and to make sure that you are podcasting, podiant.co/learn has loads more resources like this. We've got written guides, we've got videos, some interactive elements as well to help get you started. So podiant.co/learn. And while you're there, you can check out the free 14-day trial of the Podiant podcast hosting service. Give it a whirl. My name is Mark Steadman. You can find me and Podiant on Twitter. If you've got questions, then you can find us at Podiant HQ. And again, our website is podiant.co. You'll find lots more videos like this on our YouTube channel as well, so you can search for us by name. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the next one. Take care.